Welcome to First and Goal, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Get ready for the latest and hottest topics in the SML. Let's get started. Here's your host, Mad Bomber.
All right, welcome to this week's episode of First and Goal. This week we've got Primetime 000. There it is. We've got Mike FML with his Colts shirt on. He is the Packers owner. QP making his second appearance of the weekend. Now he's on First and Goal after a brilliant performance on Heat Check. And
Brilliant.
And there's Rowan down there in the bottom corner. He's still here in the league. I know he loses some games. You don't hear him in chat, but he is still in the league. So he is on First and Goal. All right, guys. So we're going to jump right into topic number one. We'll start with Prime. We got what is it? 2/3 of the way through the cycle, or 2/3 of the way through the season. Who do you think's mailing it in the rest of the way through the cycle?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't think anybody really can mail it in just because our how we have things structured with the primer. It kind of puts pressure on those guys in the bottom who want to mail it in. We have 5 or 6 SML worthy guys ready just to jump and take that spot. So that's always a good added benefit to keep guys going. Another thing to think about, if there are people who's going to mail it in or maybe not be as focused, is the guys who are putting in the most hours in the league. I looked at Dan. He's got around 800 hours into Madden. Grams, and some of these guys leave on rest mode, so those numbers are skewed. Grams in the 700s. Myself, I have 180 hours into Madden. So I think the guys who don't play the game as much are going to be a little less fatigued. And with our league, the trash talk helps you go along as well. So I try to spread around the trash talk to keep people motivated.
Okay. Mike, what do you think? You see anybody that's going to kind of mail it in?
I mean, it's the same teams that are always mailing it in, to be honest with you. Doesn't matter if it's week 1 or week 10, 17, whatever the case may be. If you are not putting forth your full effort, that's just kind of who you are as an owner, and that's pretty much what you see from start to finish. I know there's about a handful of teams that probably, there are a lot that give full effort and just don't have results, and then there are some that give pretty much medium effort, and that's the ones I would put into this group, which would be like, your Jets, your Chiefs, your Texans, somewhat your Bears at different points in the years. It's just kind of in terms of Madden gameplay, that's kind of what I see now.
Is the Chiefs just bad, or are they just mailing it in?
That's a good question.
You think both? Because I seen there's a link of an interception. I actually think you shared where he threw a pick, and I was like, okay, maybe this guy he's just really struggling. I don't think you can try to be that bad, I guess is what I'm saying. I think he's just naturally struggling right now.
Yes. I mean, I think if you are struggling like that and you want to attribute that just being bad, I would say you're mailing it in by not trying to get better. You can get better incrementally every game, and if you're not making those steps and taking that approach, then what are you doing?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. QP, what do you think? Okay, Rowan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the teams that are going to start mailing it in are the teams that are struggling. For example, like I know Coop he's been saying for a few weeks now, he's using coach suggestions. It's those teams that are like more on the bottom tier of the league, I would say. Like Mike said, the Chiefs, the Jets, the Titans, for example, Fig and the Bears. They start to, just because they're struggling, they like to use the excuse that they don't care. And then when they use that excuse, they don't care late in the cycle, it's easier just to say, oh, I'm fatigued and I'm done. So I think a lot of the teams that you're going to see mail it in and kind of just maybe not get super inactive, but just kind of act like they don't have much of a desire, are those bottom tier teams who consistently kind of struggle and don't see a chance for them to improve at all.
Okay. QP, you still here?
I'm back. Sorry, my alarm
you guys
went
can
off,
see
so
him.
I
I'm
lost
gonna
all sound.
disconnect and reconnect so I can see him again.
Is it QP or academic ostrich?
Sound all went away right now. Sorry about that.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, don't hate on the ostrich.
All right, QP. You lost some points, I guess, for
Yeah.
technical difficulties, but let's see what you got.
So my answer is I think that by like week 11, week 12, people start to not mail it in, but I think their desires to play their games lessen. I think week 1, week 2, fresh out of off season, everybody's so excited, even the guys that typically struggle. And the excitement to play their games is still right there. But then once, we get to week 12, week 13, and they're 2-11 or 2-10, I think the desire fades. I think their activity fades. They're still active in the chat, of course, but I think that as far as their Madden excitement and their Madden mojo, I think they just kind of run out of that, and they kind of wait for the offseason or the draft picks because they know they're going to get a good draft pick.
Okay, so you would say probably no one's mailing it in. Just it's a season thing, and at the start of the next season, 39. They'll pick back
not
up
really
interest.
mail. Yeah, not a mail it in. Like they don't want to play any games anymore, but I just think their excitement dies down a little bit.
Okay.
I do want to give a quick shout out to Tiny Titan, who does get his butt whooped pretty regularly, and he's almost one of probably the top 5, top 3 most active guys in chat, and he gets it. I mean, he gets it, and his dedication never wanes. So, hats off to Tiny.
Yeah, Tiny's always in chat. He's on Total Access once a week. If it comes out during the week, I think he's your week. No, he's your weekend guy, right? So
weekend guy.
He's on that, and then he's said multiple times he's here because of the community, not necessarily the game. Which at 0-12,
that's what you want.
Pretty much have to be.
And you have to be.
Shouldn't he accidentally win a game at some point in time? I mean, I figure he should have been there.
I think
by
it's
now.
coming. I think it's coming.
Just
He's had a
fall
rough
into
schedule.
one.
All right, so topic two, and I've heard this discussed on a couple shows, and I think it was Raider fan said it. Surprisingly, he's one of the two, because he said there's only 2 winners: the guy who wins the Super Bowl and the guy that gets the first round pick. What do you guys think about that? And I'll start with you, Mike, this time.
I mean, it's a very short-sighted statement, to be honest with you. I disagree wholeheartedly because while your Super Bowl champion proves themselves to be the best in the league for that particular season, and your number 1 pick gets to improve their team the best, every team can make improvements throughout the season. This is not a 1-season league. This is a 6, 7, 8 season cycle. So if you can find a way to improve on a year-to-year basis, then you're definitely not wasting your time in the season. You're definitely not just the polar options there. That's absolutely not true, and you need to be a little bit wider of a perspective to succeed long term.
Completely agree. What do you think, QP?
I agree with Mike. I think the only thing that Raider is right about is everybody plays to win. I mean, the first thing that we are all trying to strive for is the Simbardi. However, if you don't get the Simbardi and you kind of fall short of that, there's still a lot of success in that season that you may have had. And one of them is development. You could have developed your QB to a superstar X factor or star development. You could have developed your running back, your receiver, linebacker, whoever you have. I think development is a huge success for me. Maybe that's because I have no Simbardis in here, but I think that's a broad statement. Like Mike said, I don't think that that's true. I think that there's a lot of success. You could find a lot of moral victories in defeat in a way.
All right, Rowan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that statement on two different directions. First off, is the first pick really a winner? Because if we're being honest, I mean, KJ's had the first pick a handful of times, and it seems to almost make no difference. So I don't know if you can really even claim yourself a winner with the first pick if it's not going to fully change the organization and the way they're headed. And the second with that is I don't think it's fair to say the team who has the second pick and the team who has the 29th pick are on the same level, which is what he's going for here, saying that only the first pick and the last pick truly matter. Because there's also games, even though you're not winning Simbardis, there's games. I know everyone circles games on their calendar that they see because they have a little rivalry. It's a divisional matchup. There's games that people want to win, even if they have a bad record. I mean, if I'm 0-15 and I see Prime that last week, I'm not going for the first pick. I'm going to try to win. It could be Prime. It could be anybody. I'm not going to try to get that first pick just because that's considered a winner, which in my aspect, that's not winning.
All right, Prime, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with Raider, believe it or not. And from the aspect of like when you get to the Super Bowl, there's only one winner each season, and that's the Super Bowl champion. Then after that, the most powerful guy in the SML is a guy who has a number one overall pick. He can trade, he can move back, get more picks. And I actually think Rowan Coe was picking like number 3, and he traded with KJ. I forget what exactly happened. There was some crazy swap with quarterbacks involved. So you can do some crazy stuff if you're picking top 3. So I like where he's going with the whole, if you're not first, then you might as well be picking high so you can add on to your team and win a championship. Me personally, it's always going to be championship or bust. I can't, I'm never going to look back and say, oh yeah, week 12 of season 24, I beat Rowan Coe, 35-7. I don't remember that, I brag about the championships and that's all I care about. But I can see why somebody, for a day or two after regular season win, that's why you get hyped up. But overall, the lasting memories of the championships, and how do you build those championships? You try to get into the top 5 and get franchise changing players.
Do you know why Prime has that approach there? Just so
I'm going to say
everybody
16 championships.
16 championships and probably at least 10 times trading in the top 5 in the same year.
Yes.
He's just trying to double win. That's all it is.
So
Yes.
so you haven't won a Simbardi yet this season or this cycle.
Yes.
Would you say you'd rather switch places? You wish you had KJ's cycle then because he's picked first?
No, because I've still been able to win, and I've traded into the top 5 once or twice to build my roster up. So now my team's good enough to where hopefully in this final 4 seasons, I should put myself in the spot where I can win. KJ's just been bad the whole cycle. I've at least proved I can win at some points. KJ hasn't won at all.
So you would say that even though you haven't had a first pick, that's still better than having the first pick?
Even not having a first pick and not winning a Super Bowl, I mean, either way, I'm a loser. I'm a loser no matter. The only guys who have won are QB and the 3 other guys, whoever it is. And then other than that, we're all losers here. We're all losers. No one's going to remember us. So, I mean, I'm in the same breath as KJ because I haven't won a Simbardi.
So I guess that's what I'm getting at, though. The guy with the first pick is also a winner. It's not true. The guy
I'm saying he's the most powerful. He's not a winner, but he's the most powerful in that off season. He can make the most moves if he wants to. But usually the guys who are the bottom feeders are afraid to make trades.
Well, they have good reason.
So they stay bottom feeders.
I don't necessarily know that's why some of them are bottom feeders, but I see what you're getting at. All right, so third down. Meats has said he's turned the corner. He beat Latin and he beat Knoll, and he's got his superstar running back. Do you think he's actually going to turn the corner and he's back? QP, we'll start with you.
No. I think the NFC West is too tough for him at this point right now. I know he has I think he has a winning record in the cycle against Dump right now, but I think Dump is kind of caught up to him. As far as confidence goes, Dump is just extremely confident walking into every game versus him right now, and for good reason. I think he blows him out the last 2 times. It's hard to say that you're back when you're playing a team or 2 teams combined that maybe have 4 to 5 wins total. It's not a good indicator. It's not a good sign or a test to see where you stand right now when you're playing teams that have less losses or less wins than you. And you're finding confidence in that. Not to knock him for finding confidence in that win, but I don't think that shows that somebody's back. I think you have to beat those top guys in his own division or his own conference before he can say something like that. I'm also on the record. He actually said that Demuse would have more success than me. So,
all right. So maybe a little bit personal in that response.
Yeah,
but Rowan, what do you think?
I wouldn't go to say he's fully back, but I'd go to say he's trending the right direction. Because statistically, no matter what Excel spreadsheet he's going to show me when he hears this, he's not a great passer. He'll pull out numbers that says he's better than average and all this. But traditionally, whenever I checked Daddy Leagues, when he was in my division, he was 31st, 32nd in passing. He leaned on Freddie Golden heavily. I'm feeling a little desperation to win coming out of his camp over there. So I see now this year he's again 31st in passing yards. So I think he doesn't like people being on his back. He's going to go back to running the ball 35 times a game. He's going to try to recreate that offense he had last year in Baltimore where he's run, make a few passes down the stretch and then consider himself an elite passer and get back to winning games solely based on the fact that he can run it into the ground with a mobile quarterback and a halfback with abilities.
All right, Prime, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that he's back. And when we say back, I guess we're referencing his run he had last cycle, which he'll never be able to replicate again because he was never on that level beforehand. And that was a unique circumstance with a star-studded team with Lamar, with Freddie Golden, with Hollywood Brown. He just took complete advantage of those abilities. And it is actually a disappointment. We're talking disappointments and Simbardi's that he didn't even make a Super Bowl with that team. I mean, that team was loaded when abilities were at the peak of their power in Madden, and he completely fumbled the ball, didn't even make a Super Bowl. So now with abilities toned down, Meats is a subpar passer. His running games, he's going to win some games because he's got a fairly mediocre schedule now. His toughest games are against Mike and I think Matt as well. So he might make the playoffs, but Meats in terms of being back, or at least being back close to that level, he'll need to beat Dump, who is completely in Meat's head right now. Dump is talking trash and winning the games. There's trouble in paradise in Arizona.
All right, Mike, what do you think? I know you've got him on your schedule here this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, just like Prime said there, he might not be back, but he might very well be back in the playoffs just because I've said it in chat, there's a very realistic chance that he wins the last 4 in a row and I lose the last 4 in a row. And in that particular situation, I'm out, he's in, because that's just, he wins the head-to-head, and that's all that it comes down to. In terms of, is he back in general? Probably not. I mean, I don't think Meats has really evolved as a player since I've been in the league for the past couple of seasons, a couple cycles, sorry. The only person that's really had sustained success without true evolution is Primetime 000, who says himself he's calling the same plays he did 10 years ago. You know, it's something where I don't know if Meats is really improving. He's just kind of staying stagnant, and that's not really doing him any favors in terms of pretty much anything. So if you can play a sound game against Meats right now, especially with him in his own head, it's going to go well for you in some aspects, and we'll find out tomorrow exactly how that does for me.
All right. And that'll take us to topic 4. Topic 4, what's going on with the NFC South, and more specifically, D-Muse? It just seems like nobody wants to win that division. There's tons of turnover in that division. 3 of the 4 teams, weren't even in there 2 seasons ago. Or 2 of the 4 teams. So what do you think's going on with that division? And Rowan, we'll start with you.
Well, to be fair, the NFC South is probably one of the weaker divisions. Outside of D-Muse, who had might have been a flash in the pan last year. We don't really know because he hasn't been around long enough. But you have Lawyer, who hasn't been spectacular this cycle. You have Colt, who hasn't been spectacular this cycle, and you have Field, who ever since he came back really hasn't been all that either. So you don't have a ton of talent in that division to begin with. Second off, when you look at that schedule for that division, they have the AFC West this year, which is a decently tough with the Raiders and the Broncos and the Chargers. So they don't have the easiest schedule. And then when it gets to D-Muse specifically, I think a mix of the first place schedule, a mix of the tough division matchups, and then a mix of him. He's been dropping in chat that he's moving. I know when I played him earlier in the season, he was struggling to get the game in. It was tough getting a time because he was moving. He's got a lot going on. So I think with a mix of tough schedule, talent, and then outside circumstances, that division's just not up to par this season.
All right, Prime, what do you think?
Yeah, I would love to drop that excuse. I'm in the process myself. And, at the end of the day, D-Muse is exactly who I thought he was. I said it last season. He got offended. He beat the computer and he made the NFC Championship game. But the fact of the matter is, I know QP is probably going to come through the screen and beat me up because they got a bit of an alliance. But D-Muse is a good player, but he's never going to win a championship. He got Russell Wilson, the big splash signing. He's going to win his division because, like Rowan said, the NFC South, not that strong. But he's going to play the big dogs. He's going to play Dump. He's going to play RD. He's going to play some of these other cats, and he's going to get walked off the field. And now the tape's out on him. The checkdowns to McCaffrey aren't working. Running it up the middle with McCaffrey's going to work because Madden sucks, even though people know it's coming. But overall, he's not going to win a championship because his game is he's got a plan A and a plan B, and there's no plan C. So That's it. That's it.
All right, Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the NFC South in general, I think it's just a division that's full of vanilla and more vanilla. What you see is what you get on the field, and there's not much dynamic anything on any of those rosters. Last season, Demuse had CMC who was doing work with, but people caught on quickly that, just play cover two, sit in the flats, and be good to go. Beyond that, you got people like Colt who can put things together, lawyer, former champion. He can put things together sometimes. And then Field, who is eternally finding his way back to everything. And we'll see what happens there. But, the division itself is just very plain, and there's nothing special about it right now. That doesn't mean there can't be in the future, but you're not really seeing anybody break away. In terms of Demuse in particular, the one thing that I noticed when I was looking into it, I have a lot of history because I've played with him in the primer a lot. He was the Steelers, I'm the Ravens there. He doesn't get any pass rush at all. I mean, he let TJ Watt walk in the primer because he couldn't get pressure with TJ Watt. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's got Brian Burns with 1 sack on the season, and he's got like 7 sacks as a team. It's beyond bizarre that you can't accidentally run into the quarterback a couple more times than that. And that's definitely going to be setting him back and making it just to where, again, he's one-dimensional in that aspect.
Okay. QP, what do you think? He's your flying high partner. What do you have to say about the NFC South?
The NFC South, yeah, they're a struggling group of guys. Respectable guys, of course, but a struggling group of guys. I can't really comment. I don't know who's going to ever – I think Demuse will come out of there as the victor. I played all of them, I think. But it's not an impressive group or a division to me. As far as Demuse goes, it's similar to me. He came into the season 1 as a 12-4 team. I think he went to the NFC Championship just like I did the first year. I didn't play the computer to get there, but he did get to the NFC Championship just like I did. And then the next season, here we are, season 2 of his SML career, and he's just at 500 or just a game below 500 last time I checked. I think that the league, like Prime said, I think when people are commenting the games and people tuned into such a good amount of his games when he first came in, they were realizing that he does a certain amount of things only, and he doesn't really change it up. I think once the league figures that out, similar to what they did to me, I went 10-6 the next year after that and got bounced in the wild card because I think the league kind of got an idea of who I am, what I like to do, my strengths and my weaknesses, and I think that they're kind of doing that to him right now. I think teams are figuring out his weaknesses a lot more than his strengths, or than he is figuring out his strengths. And I think next year he'll get it back. I think next year he'll come back to maybe 12-4 or 11-5, and I think that's where he kind of bounces back and gets his mojo again. He has to also, because at the same time as teams are figuring him out, he's also figuring other teams out, like myself. A lot of teams figured me out, but I also was starting to figure them out in season 3. So I think just with time, but right now I think the league kind of is tough, and I think that they have figured him out in what he likes to do.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. And our score is Rowan 36, QP and Prime 38. Mike FML with 39 points is our first and goal winner for the week. Mike, these 30 seconds all yours.
I need to speak directly to Meats, Dump, Faz, and Bomber. I'm going to need one U4. I don't care who. Take a knee. Roll over. Let me get one. Packers need a playoff berth, and it's got to happen through one U4. So my DMs are open. I'll take a volunteer. Just let me know what's going on, and we'll figure it out from there. Last thing to note, this one goes out to Polly. I love you always. I hope you get more sound bites.
All right. Well, thanks for being on, guys. That was this week's episode of First and Goal. Hopefully Mike gets his win. Week 17, if we don't have a first-round bye, we're probably going to be resting starters anyway, so...
Rest all of them. We need third stringers. You need to really get some dev on them.
We'll see how that goes. But appreciate you guys being on. And until next week, this has been First and Goal.
Thanks for listening to First and Goal. Be sure to check out Mad Bomber TV on Twitch and YouTube for the latest from the SML. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.